Toowiimii!
After the release of one of my videos where I discuss why I like New Leaf better than New Horizons, I got bombarded with comments about how updates are a thing that exists, and my criticisms were totally invalid because updates are a thing that exist. Well, this is sort of a follow-up video to that video, so feel free to check that out. Anyway, I'm going to be going in-depth into the gaming industry and talking about why I find the reliance on updates such a problem that more people need to call out. A few notes before I start this video. First off, when I say updates, I'm referring to free updates and paid DLC. I'll use both words interchangeably throughout the video. Second, I will only be talking about single-player games because multiplayer games are a whole nother thing. Some of the games I'll be talking about have multiplayer components to them, but are primarily single-player games. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, when discussing updates, we must talk about what updates are supposed to be and how they've changed over the years. A good update should add new content to the game. Really pay attention to the word new. Well, then I hear you ask, what is new content? Well, new content includes features in a game that did not exist in a previous game or were not present in the marketing campaign of a game's first installment. Well, what does this mean? Let's go through some examples of games that did updates very well. The first game I have for you is Animal Crossing New Leaf, which is one of my all-time favorite games. I happen to have over 300 hours of playtime in it. New Leaf has stellar gameplay and updates. Notably, the Welcome Amiibo update, which added Amiibo support to the game, is great. This update allowed you to invite any villager you could ever want into the game if you had the correct Amiibo card. In the world of Animal Crossing, this was extremely helpful. My favorite villager you could add was Wolf Link. Another part of the update was getting exclusive items from Wisp. There were tons of other additions, but one of my personal favorites was town initiatives, which were kind of like daily tasks for the day. What's great about this update is it added tons of new content that was completely new to the franchise. This update also came out 4 years after the initial release of the game, giving people a reason to go back and play if they had put the game down. It also was a total surprise and was not announced at the game's launch. Another thing to note is even without this update, there will be plenty of content to keep you busy in New Leaf. I played almost every day for 3 years. That just goes to show how great of a game New Leaf is and why this update was released at the perfect time. The next game I want to talk about is Resident Evil 7. The Resident Evil series is one of my all-time gaming franchises. Something the newer games in the series have done a great job with is updates and DLC. Upon release, it was a complete horror experience. Capcom took a huge risk by making the game first person with new characters and enemies, and it really paid off. Later down the line, they released many different updates and DLC for the game. Among these are Banned Footage 1 and 2, Not a Hero, and The End of Zoe. Remember when I talked about how updates and DLC should be new content? Well, Resident Evil is a perfect example of that. Not only do the DLC expand on the story of the original game, but also they have completely new and unique gameplay. For example, my favorite out of the DLC is called 21. 21 is literally the game of blackjack, but in the Resident Evil universe. I love it because of how different the gameplay is from the rest of the game. There has never been a game like 21 in the entire Resident Evil universe, so you can tell that Capcom put a lot of effort into creating it. If the next Resident Evil game, Resident Evil Village, did not include the game of 21 or other updates from this game, it will be totally okay, because it is not a base game feature. Updates start to become a problem when they add in base game features instead of additional content to the game. Games should come complete with all the base game features on day one, which is exactly how Resident Evil 7 came, and that's one of the reasons it was so well received. Let's talk about Jedi Fallen Order. This is one of my favorite games to come out recently, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but after the disappointing Star Wars movies and games, this game was a complete breath of fresh air. While also being an amazing game, it also had a great update to go along with it. This update added a challenge mode, new costumes and cosmetics, and allowed you to create your own arena battles. This is a perfect kind of update. For one, it's all new content. Second, it was not expected. And third, it's just a fun update. While these games have done updates correctly, many games have not, which is the reason why I'm making this video. Here are a few games that did updates wrong. The first being Animal Crossing New Horizons. New Horizons was released with far fewer content compared to other games than any in the franchise. Many buildings, characters, and features were completely removed or not added in New Horizons. This is not me saying that a sequel has to have every single feature that the previous game had. No, not at all. If the game developer wants to have a whole new gameplay system, they should totally go for it. Nintendo clearly didn't want to do that with New Horizons though, as every major update from New Horizons has added features that were present in a previous Animal Crossing game. So therefore the updates are not new and inventive, but lacking and boring. I got so many comments on my New Horizons versus New Leaf video saying like, "Oh, but they added diving." Well, I hate to break it to those people, but diving was there at launch in New Leaf. Why couldn't it have been there in New Horizons from the start too? Nintendo should have delayed New Horizons and actually added the old content so that they could have updates that were actually new, but Nintendo decided to release it with many of the features stripped and then to add them in later. I guess they were hoping that no one would notice, but I did. This is a practice in the gaming industry that I hope does not continue. I feel so angry when I spend my hard-earned $60 on a brand new game and it's just missing so much content. Sadly, too many people are okay with paying more for less of a game. To continue, let's talk about The Sims. Except for The Sims, the problem I mentioned is even worse. The Sims stripped content from previous games and then forced you to pay for it in its sequels. Some of these features included ghosts, lockable doors, dishwashers, pools, repairmen, and nannies. All these items were present in the base of The Sims 4 and had to be added through content updates. Updates should expand on the previous game, not take away from it in the process. What EA is doing with The Sims 4 is exploiting their customers, and it's disgusting. Now that I've talked about sequels royally screwing up updates, let's talk about first installments. Let me introduce No Man's Sky. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard about this game and its horrible reception at launch. Well, do you know why that is? One word: expectations. Sean Murray, the lead developer for No Man's Sky, gave numerous interviews during development talking about the features that were going to be in No Man's Sky. From this, many got very hyped about the game and eagerly anticipated its launch. Don't make promises you can't keep. That's something Hello Games had to learn the hard way. When the game released, many expected gameplay features were completely absent. As expected, people were quite mad about this, and they had every right to be, especially older gamers like myself. I have very little time to play video games nowadays, so when I drop my hard-earned cash to pay for a game, I want the most bang for my buck. Even though they released many features later as updates, it doesn't excuse the fact that they were promised at launch. It is basically false advertising, which is unacceptable and should be called out whenever possible. Overall, the game industry has made many leaps forward into the future, but also many leaps back. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the first game to receive an update was Unreal Championship, which was done to fix a performance issue with the game. This and adding new content is what updates should be used for, but updates have de-evolved, giving developers new tactics to scam their customers. Now you pay more for less games, as games that come out now include less than ever before. And you have to waste your time or money to get content that should have been there in the first place. I never thought I would be making this video, but here we are. More people need to be calling out game studios instead of making excuses for them. I hope you guys see where I'm coming from. Please let me know down in the comment section if you agree with me or you don't. I'd love to hear it all. If you missed my Animal Crossing video, please check it out in the link in the description. Otherwise, see y'all later, have a good day, and bye.